a massive problem with erosion. So Turkey is always trying to plant trees, and of course they now, after it got burnt, it took months until they cut all the burnt trees, and so now they are preparing to plant new ones. And this area is just a few kilometers from the town center. Right behind these hills, just a few kilometers, is from where I live. So the fire was just a few kilometers away. Thank God they extinguished it in one day. Even if it was a windy day, me and my family, we were on the way to Izmir that day. And when we left Kuşadası, so from the distance we saw some smoke. Later we heard in the news and from friends that this area is burning. And when we were on the way back at night time, still they were trying to extinguish the fire, and this road here was closed and we had to drive 30 kilometers around to get home. And there is a few places which almost burnt down, like have a look to the right hand side is, for example, such a carpet place, which we visit, for example, with cruise people in the summertime, and one building of them got burnt as well. Another place over here, they were prepared. They had an irrigation system they have used and kept everything around wet. But here on this side, actually, it started a little bit further behind these hills. So, and this is very, very usual, unfortunately. And it takes years until these kind of trees, the pine trees, until they grow and get big and form forests. So it's absolutely sad. Good. So, my friends, you know the program today. We are on the way to the place called Galata. Galata, I think you know, is a quarter of Istanbul, actually. So I support two football teams. One in Germany, because this is the city I was born, Dortmund, Borussia Dortmund, where Erling Haaland used to play. Yesterday we won. And Riasson again made a good match. Julian Riasson, who was from his town or village, somebody here. No? And the second team I support, of course, is a Turkish team, and that's Galatasaray. Galata is a quarter of Istanbul. If you visited Istanbul, you may remember there is a significant tower, the Galata Tower, one of the symbols of the city. And this is the part of the city where once this company was established. The jewelry place we are going to visit is called Galata because it is a company from Istanbul. It's a producing company, quite a big one. Istanbul, ladies and gentlemen, is the place where there are, of course, lots of minorities. I know that in Turkey's history there is always a kind of conflict, especially end of the Ottoman period, the conflict with the Armenians in the beginning of World War I, in the time of World War I, we could say. And there is a lot people learn, people hear, people know, but actually still, of course, those who live, I've mentioned about the Christian minority and Jewish minority, and of course this is from the religious point of view. But if you look from the nationality, a lot of Armenians, for example, especially in Istanbul, are still living in Istanbul because they are living in Istanbul since many generations, and they are doing something which is known all around the world. Armenians are the world's best goldsmith. They are perfect masters in manufacturing jewelries. A lot of Armenian goldsmiths in Istanbul are working for Galata and other companies. And of course Istanbul is the place where the bigger companies are having their headquarters. So, but they have branches like the one we are going to see in lots of cities of Turkey, in lots of the touristic centers. As they are producers, they are deliverers, of course, to smaller jewelry places you can find in downtown areas, especially in touristic destinations. So I think it is first of all a great advantage that we will be at a place which is a producer, and furthermore they have an unbelievable big collection. I think there's no need to say much more about gold. Here in Turkey it has an old tradition, because if you just, so again we have there is some facts which of course affected the culture and tradition through religion. For example, in the religion Islam, how does it come that gold is traditional and people are used to shop golds and make gifts to each other? If you ever have the chance to visit a Turkish wedding, I can recommend, you must see that. When the bride and the groom, during the wedding party, when the bride and the groom, there is a ceremony they do. And bride and groom are on the stage, and every visitor, at least one person from every family, comes in that ceremony and line up, wait for his turn. Everybody has a valuable gift. It can be cash money or it can be gold in different shapes, in shape of jewelry, as a necklace, for example, very popular for this kind of ceremonies. But most often you can see that people hang with a needle. There is a hook at this piece of gold, and with a needle they can fix it on a band they have around on their body. At the end of this ceremony, the bride and the groom, did anyone see something like that? You know what I'm talking about, right? From head to toe, we could say, bride and groom are hanged with gold in different shapes. Most will be coins. Turkey is one of the countries in which coins of gold are minced for investment reasons. Turkey is a country in which people are used to invest even very, very little savings. You won't believe, but at jewelry places, for example, you can buy 1 gram of gold. Just 1 gram of gold. But if you live in a country in which, for example, now it's 60%, but Turkish people are used to an irregular high inflation rate. There was a period of 10-12 years, actually from 2005 to 2015, and everything got ruined again when there was the military coup attempt. But before military coup attempt in 2016, and this was subsequently followed by the pandemic which hit the entire world, but it was actually pretty a good economic situation. But now it went down as it was before 2000, and people are pretty much used to this unbelievable inflation, and so they are tricky. To keep the purchasing power of your money, what can you do? For example, people go to an exchange office or a bank and they buy with their salary. You get your salary end of the month in Turkish lira. You go to the exchange office and you buy US dollars or you buy euros. Because if you keep your Turkish lira, its value will go down like 50% in 1 month. Because prices will go up and the value of the money is going to go down. 1 month later you can buy less for the money you have. And so to keep this purchasing power, people prefer to buy currencies which are stable, like the euro, like the US dollar, like the British, or sorry, the English pounds, for example. Another option, of course, is to go to a jewelry place and to buy gold, because the price of gold, if this is a saving, you will keep for a longer term. If it's nothing you can, I mean, you could do buy today, sell tomorrow, you could do a profit, you could have a loss as well. But if you keep gold, ladies and gentlemen, and that's an international rule, gold has a global price anyway. It's not a different price here. The same price like in Norway, they charge you for the gold here. The big difference is that the labor here in Turkey is much cheaper. here in Turkey, it is of course the labor paid to the goldsmiths and everyone else who is involved is much cheaper than in many other countries. So it comes that the jewelries are having more reasonable prices. And on the other hand, we have very good designs because of the masters of goldsmithery, Armenians, for example, designing and producing these jewelries known all around the world. And so it is actually more about the labor, why the jewelry have more reasonable prices. And if you look to the value of gold on a long term, the price for gold always goes up. And nowadays, of course, it's not only gold. It's if you have a bigger saving and you, for example, my daughter, every year when it's her birthday and when she was born, back in the years when she was born, she already got from her grandparents as like other relatives, she got already some golds. So as long I'm not in a financial crisis and I must use this gold or must turn it to money, I will keep it. Because I hope one day she's going to study at a university, maybe in Istanbul, maybe in Izmir or wherever. I will have to arrange a place to stay for her and so on. You know that. And so we try to keep it as long we can keep it. And one day it will have, of course, a much greater value. It already has. If you look to the gold price, how the price of gold was 5 years ago and how it is now. You can all look and find out yourselves. I don't need to say that. As in the statistics, the price of gold on the long term always goes up. And this, of course, is why people are investing their money in gold. That's why everywhere you can find jewelry places. And so when the tourism got busier and busier, of course, this kind of bigger producers, soon they opened up branches in touristic destinations because it got more and more popular. One of the most popular items you can buy in Turkey are jewelries, handmade carpets as well. And there is one more thing, and this is leather. After the jewelry place, we are going to visit a leather shop, and here we have a lot of leather shops. You know, because Izmir is a place where leather manufacturers are since thousands of years. You won't believe, but here in this region, Pergamon is located. Do you know Pergamon? It is another ancient site, and this is where a very important material was invented. The material, which in many languages is named after the place itself, but in English they call it parchment. But I think in Norwegian you say pergament, correct? So parchment, ladies and gentlemen, was invented thousands of years ago as an alternative to papyrus. Because in the Greek world, after the Homeric writings, there was a boom of literature. And the only producers of papyrus were the Egyptians. So when the Egyptians started to see a competition in literature in between them and the Greeks, they stopped selling papyrus to the Greeks. So in the Greek world, suddenly there was a shortage of material to write on. And in Pergamon, there was people who tried things, obviously, and found out that if you take a piece of leather and stretch it in a frame, you can take off the upper layers of the skin and you can manufacture the skin to a minimum thickness, and you can leave it in that frame stretched. It dries, and when it's dry you take it out, you give the sides a cut, and you have a leaf of parchment. You can write on both sides of it, even better than papyrus, because papyrus is a soft material. You only can write on one side of it. and then you roll it. That's when we talk about ancient writings. Most often we say scroll.